Okay, well, welcome again. If you're in the first session, hopefully you'll have seen me up there, but just to introduce myself a bit more fully. So I'm Wendy Loretto. I said I'm from the University of Edinburgh. I was Dean of the Business School there for 8 years, from 2016 until last year. I'm meant to be on sabbatical, but then I got involved in this thing they call AMBA and becoming the chair, which has been a big part. I also am still sort of involved strategically at the university level, both chairing Gender Equality Committee, and then for my sins, we've got some from the UK here, haven't we? So the Research Excellence Framework, which UK is all too familiar with, others may well have heard about. I'm also director for that for the schools. So still very involved in strategic issues. But one of the things, please come in, one of the things that I really did value my time Dean, people say, what do you miss? There's a lot you don't miss. But one of the things I really did value and I do miss is the opportunity to network with other deans. And I know from experience that we have all sorts of different networks. We have local networks, we have national networks, and this is an opportunity to think as well about another international network. So I'm just going to wait, we've got another pulse of people. Means tomorrow's going to be very quiet, isn't it? Please come in. There's a few seats, typically a few seats at the front. Thank you. Lovely. Could I ask my colleagues at the technical colleagues maybe to close the door over, yeah, and other people can come in, obviously. Thank you very much. No. I won't be I don't get to sit down. You're very welcome. So just to recap very briefly, I was saying in my 8 years of being a dean experience, one of the things I valued most was the opportunity to meet with other deans. And that was some feedback we had from previous AMBA and BGA conferences that it would be useful to have a deans-only session. So this is very much the introductory session. And what I want to do today are two things. We haven't got a terribly long time, but what I want to hear from you today is about what issues you need information on. So what would it be helpful to you to network about? So as deans and directors, whatever your title may be, because we know there's different titles, but as the head of a business school, what are your MBA priorities and concerns? And that's where I'm going to kick off from today. I should say, some people said, I'm not a dean, but I'm representing the dean. Is it okay if I'm here? Of course it is. This is about leading a business school, and in particular, leading a business school with an excellent MBA. I want to give you a chance to discuss with fellow deans. So I wasn't expecting quite this many people, so we'll see how well it works. But I do want this to be interactive because it's your session. And I will today focus on MBAs. I've already mentioned MBAs a few times. I will focus on MBAs, but I also do want to involve schools that are BGA accredited. So how many people have we got who are AMBA accredited from your school? If you just, yep, BGA accredited? Yeah, okay. So I'll kick off with I'll be talking a little bit about MBA, but please, I want to bring in BGA considerations as well, because we don't see them as absolutely poles apart, and I can say more about that if you want. So this is really, say, to get that insight, and then hopefully by the end of today, by the end of this short session, we'll have an idea of which ways AMBA and BGA can better support you. Thinking about whether we want an AMBA BGA Dean's Network, and I want to test you on that to see whether or not you think it's a good idea, and other supports. And those supports could include information about sort of burning issues to you as deans, what's important, what would you benefit a community-wide perspective on. And some of you very kindly did respond when I sent out an email last week suggesting some issues. So I want to gather more thoughts today on that. So that's the purpose. There are some more seats, please, if you'd like to come forward so you don't have to stand. Actually, it's quite good. This room was quite cold when it came in, so hopefully now we'll get it warm. we go. I think everybody's got a seat now, which is great. Please, there's one up here. I promise I won't pick on you if you come to the front. Promise. Thought it was really interesting just while people are settling that last presentation for those of you who were there about the AI and simulations. And one of the statistics Olivier showed, did you notice he was saying the best students were the ones that interacted most? Weren't they? You know, and I thought, I wonder how much is actually and we can talk to him, how much is underlying engagement, isn't it? And there's a big thing to be said about engagement as a principle, however we do it, whether it's in person, whether it's AI, whatever. So, no, I thought that was particularly interesting. So, to get us started, rather than just say, throw it open, I thought I would just get it started. Excuse me, there's a seat up here, and I've said I promise I won't pick on people in the front row. I have promised that, so. Thank you very much. So to get us started, I thought I would just share some of the AMBA and BGA statistics. Here, it's a focus on MBA, as I said, I would focus on today. And just to maybe highlight some of the reports that AMBA does produce, and you may or may not be aware of, but I thought I would just give you an insight into some of the things, and then to see if some of these issues are for you. And it's really about something that we probably all are concerned about, and that's the demand for MBA, size of MBA, what sort of size and what sort of shape and form do MBAs take. So I'm going to use data from 22 and 23. There is a bit of a lag. There will be another report coming out at the end, towards the end of this year, which will be a year later. But I think it's quite interesting. This is from the Application and Enrolment Report 2024. And this report, AMBA and BGA produce this report every year. It does two things. It provides a snapshot. So the latest report in 2024 was a snapshot, I think, of 270 schools, 271. So pretty good representation out of our 290 odd schools. But what I'm going to focus on are the 233 schools who replied in both 2022 and 2023. So it is a genuine like-for-like comparison. So the first thing is, I'm sure we all hear this, and we all consider it from day to day as well, is the MBA dead, or is it dying? Is this something that you've heard or thought about? You know, are we looking at something that's maybe something that certainly we and I see some of my fellow board members in the room as well, in AMBA and BGA, are constantly thinking about? I don't think it is, and thankfully the statistics support the fact absolutely not. Both application and enrolment figures worldwide are increasing. Obviously, there are some regional variations. I've highlighted some of those now, and if you want more details, I'll see if I can try and remember them from the report. But the overall picture is one that this is a product that is still in demand from our prospective students. So between 2022 and 2023, as you can see here, applications rose on average, this was applications to schools, for their MBA programs on average by 3%. There were major regional variations, a huge surge in Africa. So there were particular reasons, I think, coming out of COVID, etc. There was a big surge in African schools for demand for MBAs. In India as well, in Europe, which slightly surprised me more, given, you know, being from Europe, some of the concerns we have, and also a rise in Oceania. What we saw was an overall drop in applications of about 5% fall. It was pretty consistent across these countries, Latin and North America, Asia and Middle East. Then applications per program, so those were applications at school level for MBA programs, but for each program, the applications pretty much mirrored these trends. So it wasn't like there was a big swing to applications up, say, for a full-time program and down for a part-time. The applications very much mirrored these trends. They were regional variations. When it actually turned into enrolments, so what we call bums on seats, those also increased 5% on average. So it wasn't just an upsurge in demand for programs, but an upsurge for actually those who ended up being on the programs. Again, major regional variations, but not quite the same ones as applications. So very positive in Europe, India, Oceania, China, and Middle East. Given that China was one of the regions that was concerned about the decrease in their applications, actually saw an increase in the enrolments. And it was downward 2 or 3% in UK and Africa. Not major, but downward with that. And basically, enrolments per program went up by 3%. So I think the picture we have here is that applications are up across the board with some variations, but crucially, enrolments are up as well, which is really positive. And it's not because we're dropping our standards. So do you ever get, when you get accreditors coming, whether it's AMBA or if you're part of any other accreditation bodies, your accreditors say, how many people are applying and how many do you accept? And there's always that look, are we accepting, are we dropping our standards, are we accepting people we wouldn't normally have done? So absolutely not. Again, that shows that the standards are being maintained. In fact, one could argue even slightly rising. So offer rates have actually declined slightly from 43% of all applications to 40%. So they say these are, reminder again, these are like-for-like statistics. So this is showing a programme at really quite a healthy position. And about 72% of candidates who actually were offered a place on an MBA programme took this up, and that was up from 65%. So quite interesting, I thought. The last couple more, and then I'm going to open it up for discussion. The size and shape of MBA programmes. So the first few statistics there are about the demand. Let's look at the size and shape. Diversity is that we're still perhaps, or not, well, not perhaps, we still aren't seeing the number of women that we might like to achieve parity. In fact, there was a very slight decline between 2022 and 2023. Again, is that statistically significant? It's just on the border, but it's on the border because these are big numbers. But we don't want it to go further. We don't want it to go down further. But 40% of applications and 40% of enrolments are from women. The proportion of international students on an MBA portfolio does vary markedly. So hopefully you can see that's not too small to see, but the green columns are the percentage of applications that came from international students. And the blue column are the percentage of enrolments that were international students. And you can see big variations there. We've got a few colleagues, I saw them earlier from India. If you're saying, why is India not there? Pretty much the Indian schools that replied to this had 0% international. Yours is a much more domestic market. But what we do know is, look at UK, for example, is a clear outlier there. And I think that's replicated by some statistics Andrew has presented us before, that in the UK, the vast majority of our applications are from international or non-UK students, and that also translates into enrolments. But you can see globally with about 40% of applications are international, and then about sort of 20, I think it's about 25, 26% of the enrolments are international. But that does, we see a very sort of diverse sector there. And it does show where you do your MBA does matter in terms of that international diversity. The types of provision, and these are the questions that AMBA ask. I think what we need to do is make sure we now ask about online, because they don't expressly ask about online. But the categories that they have is that how many are taught part-time, by far the most popular format globally. As you can see here, nearly 2/3, 62% of MBAs are part-time globally. 16% taught in modular format, so that's blocks of intensive teaching. Presumably those are, well, not presumably, they can be in person or they can be online. That's what AMBA doesn't ask. And 23%, now the minority, just about a quarter, under a quarter, of all MBAs are full-time, what we would have thought of as a traditional full-time MBA product with that. Those haven't changed much in the last couple of years. We saw quite a bit of variation around COVID times, when obviously people were, by necessity, having to change the ways they offered all degrees, including the MBA. But also I think it brought a time of maybe innovation and experimentation. That has been more settled in the last couple of years, those proportions. So the main changes that we have seen is Asia and Middle East. So the biggest decrease in full-time and a rise in part-time and modular, whereas India decreased part-time and increased use of modular formats. Those are the biggest sort of international trends. There's much more detail in the report if you are interested in following through. So this is now going to be over to you, but maybe before I go over to you, giving you a time, are there any sort of specific questions? And I'll see if I can remember any stats if you wanted to follow up from the report. Anything? Had people read that report? Is that just a recap, or? Yeah, some yes, some, if you're like me, probably had read it and then forgot it with that. Anything of surprise there, or very much confirming what you thought? Yes, please.
Could you just give some detail on the difference between taught part-time and the modular intensive teaching?
Yeah, so taught part-time was more your traditional, it would be in classes in longer blocks, like 10-week blocks type, whereas the modular is in short, intensive teaching. But it's like what those don't do is gives the difference between what proportion was online, what proportion was in person. Yeah.
So it would be like weekends, the first one, and,
Yes.
and the other one would be a block of 1 week every month.
It could be, exactly. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I think there might be some method, and we'll refine the AMBA, and this was a learning for me, we'll refine the questions that are asked to give you more meaningful data as well. Got somebody here and then here, yeah. AMBA doesn't collect the data, and that's I think GMAC maybe do some of that from memory. Yes, yeah. Can you recall any of the statistics? Sorry, I put you on the spot, but
I don't know the statistics.
yeah, yeah. Have we got anybody from GMAC here? Have we? Oh, we have. Great. Hello. There's so many people. That's brilliant. Can you remember? Is the age range changing of MBAs? I'm not asking you the detail. You can.
I haven't seen much shift, but you can see it a little bit younger in some of the regions.
Yeah, a little bit younger. Yes, that. Yes, we've got somebody here, and then we'll come forward. Yes.
Yeah, I had a question on the gender difference.
Yeah.
You said 40% are women.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between regions?
Yes, there is, and I won't remember all the statistics here, but there's quite a marked variation, but not maybe as much as you think might be, as I initially thought there might be with that. Yeah. But it's been an overall, there was an increase in women after COVID and then drop back. So what we're seeing now is probably a drop back to the pre-COVID levels. Yeah. But I will have a look at that later in the report. Yes.
Yes, the previous slide said something like size and internationalization, right?
Mm-hmm.
But here, the statistics only shows percentage of international, if I'm not mistaken. What about size itself? Do you see any trends in the class size?
That data's not collected, sorry.
Okay,
Yes,
size,
yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
it's- all right.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have put size there, wasn't I? I was getting too carried away with the old, yes, yeah. No, well, actually, there are some dates in data in the overall class sizes, and yeah, so there is a little bit of data on that, which I will have to go back to with that, but not broken down in that sort of granular detail. Yeah.
So the part-time MBAs, I mean, these are the traditional weekend MBAs, so these are executive MBAs, right?
Yes, they will be. But again, we don't know that detail. That question's not asked, but I think that's a reasonable inference to make. Yeah, it's more likely to be the executive program. I mean, unless anybody want to correct me, I mean, this is part of sharing. Does anybody have a part-time program that's not an executive program? Is that yes? So some that have that maybe could talk about their program. Yeah. So what is it? It's
For students between 3 and 8 years of experience.
yeah.
They do not qualify for an Excel MBA, but they still want to take a part-time program.
Okay. And what's your institution?
Louis Business School.
And Lewis, yes, yeah. With that, and is that a popular program? Is that?
Yes, it's quite popular program and was important when the full-time MBA applications declined 10 years ago, started declining.
Mm-hmm.
So we saw a shift from the full-time to the part-time MBA for this kind of profiles.
Yeah, do that. I think, I mean, inherent in all of this, I've talked about the stability. But I think what it's, when you look at these top level figures, they're probably hiding the fact that we are changing and we're, if we look at portfolio level, maybe things are fairly stable, but at program level, there might be more of a mixture, shift away from certain types of delivery to others. I mean, one of the big ones, I think, from accreditations, I do obviously a lot of accreditations, not just for AMBA, but for AACSB and EQUIS as well, is that get the sense that there's still a big experimentation about the amount of teaching that's online versus the amount of teaching that's in person, whatever the format. There's also that, even on online, the balance between synchronous and asynchronous. Is that fair to say? Are you still experimenting? When do you think it'll settle down? Do you? Oh.
I would say we still maintain the hybrid.
You still maintain the hybrid, but still the same proportions, or do you? Yes, yeah. Yes.
Is there any research or data which is collected in terms of the type of engineers who are going for MBA program? Because in India we find a lot of IT professionals coming into MBA. Is there something in terms of the diversity of engineering which is applying for the MBA?
Not from these statistics. Again, GMAC might, I think they do collect some data from what came in. I'm looking here, not because of anything you were saying. I should have a pen somewhere, because one of the things I want to note down, some of the information that you would find helpful to see we got. But is there a flip chart pen at the back? Can anybody see? And crowd surf it to me forward. No. I'm going to have to remember this. I'll remember. Okay. Were there any others? Sorry, any questions? Oh, bless. Thank you. That's it. Sorry, that's a very shorthand way, but I'll remember it hopefully from that.
Any thoughts on dual degree programs?
Yes. Now that was something I was going to come on to and ask you in the second one, because I think maybe that's a nice segue into my questions. Is that how are these figures and trends comparing to your own, and what difference will a year have made? And that is one of the issues I wanted to pick up with you, is that I get a sense that dual degree programs, everything goes in cycles, aren't they? Have you all been in this field long enough to realise that? And we saw dual degree programs being quite fashionable, should I say, maybe 10 plus years ago. Then I think with the pressures, particularly around COVID, it was difficult to keep exchanges and things going. And then various other sort of fallouts from that when we're all getting back on our feet again. But I do get the sense, particularly coming from my own perspective, UK and Europe, where we've had governments trying to close down borders. And I don't know, Steph here, I saw him earlier, I don't know if he's here, but talking about Netherlands, people might be using Netherlands as an example, which is a country, and the UK is another one, that's very clearly trying to close down and stop immigration. So actually thinking about reopening those international borders through dual degree is something that we see more and more interest in, but I don't have the stats on it yet. But would anybody else like to come in about dual degree, actually? I'm going to note that down. If there's anybody that's, is this something that who does dual degree programs at MBA level? The minority. Who's considering them? Still. Who's thought about it and thought, definitely not? Well, so would maybe up to 10 people doing them, a bit more considering them. But actually that could be something that, information on dual degrees. And that's at executive and last level. What difference do you think a year will have made?
Your question is with respect to...
No, because I'll tell you where this question came from. As I said, there's a lag in these data. These are comparing enrolments, etc., from 2022 to 2023. Do you think 2023 to 2024 will show a very similar picture? You do? Are there any markets, any places that are concerned we might actually have seen 2023 was good and 2022 was good, there might be a dip? Yeah, maybe, please come in. It's your opportunity to expand and thoughts, and maybe say the country or the institution you're from. Yes?
I think we had a tremendous year in 22 that was basically a rebound from COVID, I
Yeah.
believe. And we saw 23, but also now 24 is going down compared to 22.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
No, that
I don't know whether that's the term.
yeah.
Another one I would be interested, do you see any difference between schools that have a high reputation, let's say in terms of Financial Times ranking, or in terms of pricing of the program? Do you see there any kind of differences in the growth trends? There was always these things that kind of in the end only the big institution would survive, and the smaller one would have difficulty.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not answering with AMBA statistics here, okay? Just answering in terms of overview of accreditation and talking to lots of other deans. I'm sure something you all do. I would say the price is not so sensitive. Yep. And I mean, there are also caveats about that, because we know that many, if not all of us, offer things like fee subsidies or scholarships in order to, to be able to bring in people who might not otherwise be able to afford it, or to create a more diverse program. So we don't actually know how much the list price corresponds to the price that everybody pays. But if you're just looking at the list price, is there a correlation between that and that? No, there's not. Yeah. I think what we are seeing is a definite bifurcation of the higher quality schools and those, and I am honestly not saying this because of my chair of AMBA BGA, but there is a split between those that are accredited and those are not. And I think that's partly because those that are not accredited in many countries have been the ones that have been more vulnerable to governments cracking down on visas and other opportunities. Yeah, some nods to that. I think that's been that. So there is a definite advantage to accreditation. But your question was actually more about rankings. FT, and I can say this as a school, the University of Edinburgh, that's been in and out of the FT 100. But talking to other schools that have been similarly, 1 year you're in, the next year you might be in a little bit higher, next year back out. Does it make a difference? No, it doesn't. Would I rather be in it than not be in it? Of course I would. I'm not going to lie. But it hasn't made a difference to the attraction for the students. Now, I'm looking around the room and I can see deans of schools that are in that top half and more in the top half and the top few of the FT. And I know they are ferociously proud of that, and that is part of your strategy. That's fantastic. But for those of us who may be in that, going in and out of the lower end, or indeed not in it, I don't think it's a disaster. I think what's important in the rankings is your university, quite honestly. That's what MBA students seem to be saying is really important. But there will always be students at that top end who will choose ones that are ranked in the FT. We can't deny that. Is rankings a big issue for you? I mean, it's yes and no. Yeah. Well, one of the things that we talk about is the methodology for the FT. And some of you may well have been in sessions in various deans conferences where Andrew Jack, who started the whole FT and still is involved, albeit a slight distance. His argument is that once you get below the top 100, they haven't got the resources to be able to know where you came. So that's a frustration if like our school, you complete your surveys, you go in, but then you don't manage to make the top 100. You've no idea whether you were 101, or whether you were 200, or where you came.
Well, there's still the European ranking, for example.
Yep.
And at the end of the year, they tell you where you stack up vis-a-vis each of the programs.
They do.
MBA full-time, executive MBA, and executive programs, the Master of Management. So at least that level, many schools who don't make in the top.
Yeah, saying that the European rankings, you can say where you come in each program.
Right. We have to wait until the end of the year.
But do the European rankings, if you're not in the top 100, they still tell you?
Yeah.
Yes, so you can get some inference from that.
To profile yourself,
Good point. Yes, yeah, that. What, in terms of what does exercise you about your MBA? Is it numbers? Is it diversity? Is it types of program? Or are you pretty happy with your MBA and it's not a big concern? Maybe we could get some ideas. I was going to split people up at this stage, but sorry, there's too many to try and do that effectively. So,
I've seen that the questions future students are asking are shifting because of corporate changes.
yep,
Corporations are changing, maybe not for the best, probably for the worst, and they're going back probably to shareholder value principles, and those type of questions are going to affect
yep.
MBAs, and we have to also have like a moral stand, and also like a discussion of what we're going to
What we're teaching.
attend these new questions in a new way, of course.
I don't know, at the back, do you want me just to repeat that if it didn't come through? Yes. It was saying prospective students. Colleague, where are you from?
From Medellin, from Colombia,
From Colombia, was saying that prospective students are asking different questions. Previously, the questions they're asking are changing. They're becoming more instrumental, I think. Would that be fair to say? Yeah, what will the payback be? And is that something that other people are finding, that prospective students are asking different questions and therefore maybe wanting different things from their MBA?
You know what I think? That the most important is what are your graduates finally
Yeah.
to make changes in the companies, in the society, etc. And for me, the most important argument is to show to others, this was our student and this was our student.
What
He or
impact?
she did this and this. And I think that that's much more important than any ranking, you know.
I'm just going to, again, try and, so expectations of prospective students. And then impact. Yeah.
Which is very difficult to get because you need to survey alumni and they're not always willing to tell you.
Doing that. Well, I've talked about MBA, and this session is going to be very short because I know we're running over time, but what other issues would you, we're not going to get into today, but would you want to discuss and have more information on? So it doesn't have to be MBA, it can go wider than that now, but what would be helpful? So we have somebody over here, then here, and then the back. So
Hi, thank you. It is an MBA question.
That's fine.
Kevin, the PwC speaker in the earlier session, said bravely to this audience, there will be less jobs for generalists.
Yes.
MBAs, historically,
Yeah.
that's what we do. So I would be interested to, for us to look at the statistics, how many of our MBAs are still very much into the generalist board, and how many there are either more specialist, either industry or discipline.
Thank you. I'm just going to cut that down. I think, if I understood correctly, and that was behind my question to the speaker, by generalist they meant non-business. So, you know, very much looking at graduates from other degrees. Yeah.
Sorry, PwC is a big employer of MBAs, so I
Yeah, yeah. But whether MBA would count as generalist or not. So maybe we can catch Kevin and clarify that one. But it's a really good issue more generally. And then we had somebody here, yes?
Just to comment on the format of MBA, we've gone full online after COVID, and we are now battling to get the students back onto contact, where they prefer the online.
They prefer. And where are you based? Where's your... South Africa, so they like online. So I think that's something we want to maybe get a bit more information on about what the future of online and at home is going to be. Yeah.
One other comment, what we're spending a lot of time on is the teaching approach
Yeah.
on the MBA with the new generations that we have.
And that probably brings in online, but also brings in things like AI, etc., that we were talking about, definitely. And I got that in my email comments back, so definitely I think that's something we want to do a deeper dive into. So we've got somebody at the back, and then Beatrice, yes.
Thank you. I'm from Macau.
Yeah. Beautiful play.
We don't gamble. So my question is more on what the lady mentioned is about the generalist that the
Yep.
keynote speaker mentioned. In our case, our university basically serves local Macau people as well as Chinese students.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What we have found is, like you've mentioned, a geographical change. Some places have a drop in MBA enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
This is typical in our place because we have more specialized master programs like Master of Science in Accounting, etc. And our students tend not to want to be generalists.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
want to be more specific. And so people start not finding MBA being as attractive
Yeah. Yeah.
more. So I am very curious in knowing when the students, they have some work experience, they want to choose a master program to study, do they want more specialized program
Or-
do you think MBA
great.
is that?
So that's definitely, I get in the sense that is something that would be of use to quite a few of you, yes. Quite a few of us. Yes.
Hello, Wendy. I think I would like to share two concerns. The first one is about academic innovation
Yeah.
in the program, and the second one is about how to introduce artificial intelligence and
Yeah,
other
yeah,
emerging technologies in the learning process.
Okay, great. And I say I have that one from the comments I received earlier, but I'm going to put that in. I'm going to put teaching, but I realise that's approach. It's pedagogy. Okay, final few minutes in this introductory. How can AMBA BGA help support? Well, I think these are sort of areas that I think I'm going to take today and tomorrow and come back to you if that's okay with us and say these are some of the areas that came up and maybe we can prioritise. I was going to do a poll, like use good old Mentimeter, and I thought there'll only be about 20 people in the room, so we can talk. I should have, so apologies, I should have used Mentimeter. Anyway, I'm so pleased you turned up. Would a Dean's Network be of value to you? This is not committing you, but quick show of hands. Would a Dean's Network be of value to you through? Yeah. Honest answer, we have loads of networks. I don't think it would be of much use to me. Anybody want to? Not brave enough. I wouldn't be offended. I would not be offended. Just really want an honest answer. Not quite sure. It could be. Depends what we do. Yeah?
Well,
Yeah.
the FMB is history of
Exactly.
so I think why not?
Yeah. And that's partly where you could say, yes, it's great to do because it's yet another opportunity for us to meet as a community of deans. Or you could say, no, we've got enough, you know, with others. But not all of us are members of AICSB or EFMD. Some might be members of all, 2 or 3 or 1. Okay, so I'm taking away from this very short session, and thank you for coming along. And hopefully, if nothing else, you maybe just meet some other people from this that you will obviously follow up with in the conference. But I will be back in contact after tomorrow when we've got all this together. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks.